Welcome back, you beautiful people, to the Real Collective podcast. I'm Sean Tassay, joined as always by my illustrious host and friend, Kyle Miller. Kyle, how are you doing today?
Oh man, we're repping the brands here, so this is good. It's
That's
gonna
it.
be a good day when you're repping the brand.
That's what happens when you're normally we do this on the weekday, and we just our weeks were so busy with this fall market that we're doing this on a Saturday morning to make sure we get the podcast in.
That's right. It's called commitment.
Hey, you know what? There's a lot to be said about commitment and consistency and putting it out every week. We're getting close to the end of season 12, if you can believe it, of the podcast. And if you're not up at a year of doing this together, it's pretty close, I think, Kyle. So
It is actually. It's. I think we'll hit that in like February or March
not
of
even.
24.
No, I
Not
think
even.
no, I think it's gonna be like I think it's pretty close to now.
Wow. I have to go back and check.
Yeah. So your 1 year anniversary gift is in the mail. It's a,
Yeah.
it's a
Check it out.
yeah, it's a box of Magic Mind.
Perfect. Perfect. They'll love it.
Shout out to Magic Mind, who's not sponsoring the show today, but they're still cool. Anyways, as always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who you think might like this conversation. We're going to get into it. There's a lot of stuff for us to talk about today. So just as a sort of a Cole's Notes version, we're going to talk about some articles you've read about banks that say that they're bleeding. And I'm sure everyone who's listening is just so upset that banks are losing money right now. There was some stuff that happened down in the States, and that always has a bit of an effect on us with the debate that was going on last week. And then talk a little bit about the market, fall market, summer market, what we had. And then there's some holdover technical stuff that we're talking about in terms of the real estate boards and what's going on with the real estate boards in Ottawa and how that might affect consumers. So yeah, we'll get on into all of it. As I said, you can download the buyer or seller guides below. You can also book an appointment with Kyle or I in the Calendly links. Kyle, why don't you start us off and tell us about these articles that you're reading about these banks?
Well, yeah, it's just, yeah, nobody's got any love lost for the banks, I don't think. That's for sure. It's weird though, you do get different sentiments. People are like, screw the banks. But yet, we're the same people who are like, my bank loves me. They will do anything for me. Like, it's whatever validation people get into that is wild to me. But whatever. Yeah, there's just this big push right now where we're seeing a lot of our banks, really huge move, a bunch of huge moves on Thursday and Wednesday, Thursday, where a pile of our lenders came out late in the afternoon. And they're just like, their fixed rates just went bang, and they just dropped. And we've seen it happen a few weeks before that with some of the big six banks that are out of the broker channel, RBC, CIBC, to name two, basically. And what seems like we're seeing is they're buying business. So there are deals to be had. There are deals to be had at banks, but what people really need to understand is the clause that they try to get to do that. Right? It's like we've actually had a really good run in our channel with Scotia, for example. Scotia's been 1 year on a promotion where you were getting 10 or 15 basis points better if you opened a bank account, had your payment come from that bank account, and took one other piece of credit that they would offer, right? And what people forget sometimes is that's where banks make money. Right. Like, yes, when we're talking billions of dollars, do mortgages make the money? Yes. But that's your in the retail space, that's like your gum and your chocolate bar stuff that makes money. The impulse buys at the end, those make money, right? So that's what they've been doing, and they're hustling they're everybody's fighting for volume, and the ticket in the door is always going to be a mortgage. Right. And the margins are tight. Fiscal year end is October 31st. I can really see all that crap stopping as of October 31st when they go, hey, when they get to tell the investors, like, hey, we lost a shit ton of money, but look at all the guys we took and look at all what's going to come.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a big thing like that happening right now, which is super interesting to watch. And like, I think it was the RBC CEO or one of the top guys came out and was like, we're bleeding money. Like, we're bleeding money. And even talking to colleagues of mine, guys I know at RBC, they're like, not only are they bleeding money, they're cutting our legs off. So those guys are commission-based employees. and they're like, yep, you can offer your clients this rate. By the way, we're taking X amount of dollars off your commission to do that. So that's where the volume game comes in. Those guys need to now ramp up as best they can to try to just keep their living the way it is, right? And again, it's sales. Nobody feels bad for a salesperson ever, so no one's complaining. But that's what happens, right? So it's interesting to see that happen across the board. And again, I can see that. I feel like you're going to see that more and more. Big push till October 31st, and then we'll see what happens at the banks.
Yeah, so the middling sales guys like you and me that are just grinding out there trying to make a living for our families. Yeah, okay, it's not a government employee, but there's no guarantee on how much money we make, and we're busting our asses on a fucking Saturday morning to try and make money, to try and get in front of someone who says, "Yeah, you know what? I'm going to hire these guys to help me buy or put my mortgage on my house." We're working our asses off on for commission sales. We're not a big conglomerate. I'm not Remax. You're not Mortgage Brokers Ottawa. We're just two regular guys with regular families who are trying to do the right thing for our clients and make money for our family. And we're the guys who are getting the squeeze. And the big banks who say that they're bleeding money, bullshit, right?
Well, what's bleeding, right? Like, oh,
Us,
so you're not going to make $1 billion. And the thing is too, is that what's crazy is how I don't know what the proper word is, but it's like, I get in the broker space, we don't have a slush fund that we can be like, hey, here, I'll pay for your appraisal, right? Or I give you this cash back. We don't necessarily have that.
Yeah.
In some respects we can, but for the most part, if a broker's doing something, it's coming out of their pocket. Right. You're asking that person to chop their finger off for you.
That's
right. And some will do it, some won't. I've done it for sure. And I've slowed down on doing it. Like, think it's better to make something than make nothing. But at the same point, when you hear banks or people come to me all the time, like, well, you need to sweeten the deal. Like, the bank would usually pay for this, or the bank's going to give me cash back. I'm like, first of all of that money that the bank's giving you, that's your money. Nobody does anything for free,
right.
Which means they're getting you somewhere else. If they're giving you $2,000 cash back, that's because that's your own interest money that you're giving them. They could drop that rate. Of course they could.
Right.
They could drop that rate. They're paying for an appraisal, which they take from your checking account fees. It's your money, right? Why won't Simply do that? Why won't EQ Bank do that? Because they give you higher interest rates and they don't charge you for your checking account.
Yeah.
That's why they give you nothing, because you don't need anything, right?
Because they already gave it to you.
They already gave it to you. They gave it to you when they don't charge you for this and they don't charge you for that, and they give you higher interest. That's taking care of the client. The fact that you think you're beating the bank boggles my mind. It's your money they're paying you with, right? The penalties they're going to charge you when you break your mortgage, that goes into the slush fund, which pays you back. Like, it's not right. So
no, it's all smoke and mirrors, but it's all great marketing. It's all gimmicky, right? It's all.
Oh, it feels great.
Yeah, it sure does.
I don't know where it comes from. It feels great.
And you say to your buddy, "Oh, hey, the bank gave me $2,000," right? You get pumped about that. You don't say to anybody, "Oh, well, my bank is paying me 3% on my high interest savings account," versus these guys are getting 2% on their high interest savings. Nobody talks about that, right? They always say, "Oh, my real estate agent gave me a break. They did the deal for 4.5% instead of 5%," right? That's what everybody talks about. Nobody says, "Oh, well, they did this, this, and this. Here's all the extra services they provide. They were working at 10 o'clock at night to make this deal come together." Nobody talks about that, right? So it's like you get what you pay for, sort of thing, right? Yeah, it's interesting. I gotta say, I saw a rate. We've got on the Real Collective website. We've got a mortgage calculator, rate calculator, and there was some posted rates at the bottom. And I scrolled down. I'm like, wow, 420 for a 5-year fixed. What is someone smoking? How is that the posted rate right now? I thought it was really low. It seemed like it really dropped off a cliff, like you were talking about, and I was surprised to see it. So it's interesting that all the banks are like, okay, this is what we got to do, and they just sort of all pulled the plug at the same time on the rate.
You want to know why?
Tell me.
So it's have to be careful with the terminology, and this gets technical, but
Mhm.
there are two rates at the bank. Okay, and this is specific to the big banks and credit unions. There's two rates. There's the posted rate, and then there's the discounted rate. Almost nobody, if at all, would ever advertise their posted rates, because like they are there, but it's not like they're like bam pushing them out there, because they're so far off the mark. Their posted rates are a percent and a half, 2% higher.
Right.
But but you as the consumer get the discounted rate, which is what gets advertised, right? But that's also where all this rate, all this drop in rate, and all the like, we're losing money today, they're gonna get it back.
Yeah.
Because what ends up happening is when you calculate a penalty to get out of a fixed rate, you're using the IRD calculation, the interest rate differential calculation. And what the banks do is they use their posted rate. So if you got your 5-year fixed at 4.2, but the posted rate was at 5.5, so you got a 1.3% discount, that's locked in their memory. And then in 3 years from now, if you have to break or decide to break your mortgage, they're going to look at the posted rate on the 2-year deal, which has all come down, and now triggered you into an IRD situation. And they don't go, okay, well, you're at 4.5 and the 2's at 3%. They go, you're at 5.5 and the 2 is at 3%. So that's now your difference that you're calculating against. So again, nothing is free. They will get you back. So the same people that are going to go rate shopping to get 0.01% more and don't make their full term in this decreasing market, I'm tempted to say it's how many cars are you going to be buying the bank if you have to break? And if you're like, hey man, I'm never going to break my mortgage, then it's true. You never have to worry about this. Except we know that 70+% of people never finish a 5-year term, and 55% of people get divorced. So those are situations where you will be breaking your mortgage.
Well,
and like it's going to be wild in the next 2 to 3 years.
I want to knock on wood and shake my own hand. I have been through. I have made it to the end of my 5-year fixed mortgage once, twice, perhaps twice. No, the second one was a 3. I had a 5-year fixed on my first house. I made it to the end once. I've got a 5-year fixed on the one that I'm in right now. We'll see. And I'm currently not divorced. Hopefully that never changes.
Currently on the 45 percentile.
That's right. That's right. That's right. I plan on being there all the way until I get into the 100% of people who die. So it is certainly interesting what's happening in the mortgage world right now. I mean, people say, oh, well, when a rate's coming down, and all that sort of stuff. Well, all that whoop-de-doo. This is the more important conversation, right? Is like what's the effect of what's happening right now? And we're expecting, we're going through it. Normally we see an uptick in number of sales from August to September, and then carries it through into October a little bit. So we're expecting to see that happen now. I've got a few different clients who we are either reposting their property, or we're doing dramatic price reduction on their property. And even still, it's not having necessarily the effect that we're hoping to see. It seems like still the only properties that are really selling are the ones that are a deal, right? If you're fair price, don't seem to be getting the looks. If you're a deal, that's when it starts to make sense. We had a property that we showed to a client yesterday. There were 10 showings booked on it, right? It looked like a deal. It was $700,000 in the middle of the city for like a fully renovated, updated semi-detached house, right? And had 10 showings booked. But at the same time, we've got a property that's fully detached, fully updated, renovated, $50,000 less in Orleans, got 1 showing, just put it on the market. Lowest price that it's ever been at. The house was bought 2 years ago for $600,000. The buyer for that house, the seller now, put in $175,000 worth of renovations, and we're selling it for $650,000. Not a look. One look.
Wow.
So it's close to fair market value, right? It's not drastically over. If it's priced at $650,000, it's probably worth $640,000, $630,000, if that. But it's an interesting, so what's the next move? 599,
I
like,
it's a I wonder too, like, at some point when you're at the peak and people are like, well, we'll wait till rates come down, right? Well, and then they wait and they wait, and there's been a few steps, and now we've seen a fairly substantial drop in a lot of the rates. And now now there's a part of me that's like, people are like, how low will they go?
yes,
So
yeah,
they're still waiting,
yeah,
right? So they're still waiting. I had a client who I'm potentially working with, I guess, and we had done some stuff. We had done some math to give her options for her renewal or maturity or whatever you want to call it. And she actually flipped into an open mortgage. So it's going to be like 8 or 9%.
Ooh,
And she flipped into an open because she wants to see how low they can go. She can handle the higher payment for 3, 4, 6 months. I
right,
mean, she can handle it all the time. She just doesn't want to, obviously.
sure,
But she's going to wait to see where those interest rates go, to see how low they can go. So it's like, if you've got that mentality and you're a buyer,
yeah.
it's like, man, now this is going to get, again, we're setting ourselves up for a really interesting
I think
winter and spring.
I was going to say, I think we'll take a break after this, but my hot take is this: if the fall market doesn't pop off in terms of like people actually who have been on the fence buying houses, they're going to get screwed in the spring where they're going to be competing against each other. Like you said this last year, right? You and your 5 friends, 10 friends,
Hmm.
right? All trying to buy the same house. It's going to be silly in the springtime because it's going to be all of these things coming together. If you're buying right now, you know it's fall. Find yourself fall winter. Find yourself a desperate seller. You'll be in good shape. If you're selling right now, put it at the right price. Don't mess around. So those are
We'll
my two.
talk about and we'll talk about the rate, the way to play the rate game,
Yeah,
with that. So you get the advantage of buying now and still being able to have a really good interest rate. You just have to switch your mentality just a tick, and then
yeah.
you'll be fine.
All right, we talked about it last
Talk
time. We'll
about
keep
that.
talking about it. We'll keep talking about it, and until we'll take a quick break here from our sponsors, and we'll catch you back on the flip side. This episode of the Real Collective podcast is brought to you by Real Collective Marketing, the marketing agency that specializes in the unique needs and budgets of small to medium-sized businesses. We provide turnkey marketing solutions that get results. We become an extension of your team and act as your virtual marketing department, designing and implementing cost-effective strategies that will help grow your business. You can find out more today at www.realcollectivemarketing.ca. Now, here's your hosts, Sean and Kyle. Welcome back to the second half of the Real Collective podcast, where Kyle and I are both wearing hats provided to us by our employer, and they have curved brims on them, which is rare to see on me. And I feel like, Kyle, you are a curved brim often guy.
I'm the complete opposite of you. I cannot wear a flat brim hat. I look weird.
It's weird for me to be wearing a curved brim hat. So there you go. As always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone you think might like this conversation. You can also download the Calendly links below to book an appointment with Kyle and I. You can also watch us on YouTube, as you might be doing, or listen on Apple Podcast or Spotify, and you can download the buyer seller guides below. We were talking a little bit about what to do in this market and how to play it right if you want to quote unquote time the market. If you're both buying and selling, my suggestion would be to buy now with a long close. Take advantage of a little bit of a softer market in terms of pricing and aim to turn around and sell in the springtime, because I think the prices are going to be higher then. Yeah, that's my hot take. It's not really different than any other year, but there's a trick, Kyle, that you were talking about right before we jumped off about how to do that, how to play the mortgage game with that.
So yeah, and it's so I have some stats that I looked up from a uh, a data company in Canada called WOWA, WOWA. If you look them up on X, they have some really good stuff on there, and a lot of bigger companies, real estate companies. I'm sure your guys at Hallmark and everything will know who these guys are. They pull a lot of data from here.
Yeah.
So their prediction is that by December 31st, 2024, that prime is going to be at 595. So that's at least a 50 basis point drop before the end of the year. Whether they do that in one shot or two, prime goes down to 595. By June next year, it's at 5.2. And by December 31st, 2025, we're at 4.95. And by December 2026, we're at 4.7. So just means that those rates are steadily on the way down. And this is prime. So this is variable rates, but there's an indirect effect to fixed rates, right?
Yeah,
so just that's that. And someone's going to say, oh yeah, but I heard it's going to be at 2.5 or 2.75. That's the overnight rate. That's the rate that the banks borrow the money from the Bank of Canada.
Right.
That's how that goes, right? So one of the things there is the fact that is you can ride that wave down. Like if you wanted to buy today, right? And for short-term pain, you get the long-term gain because you can buy today, have an adjustable rate mortgage, which will follow prime down. And what you get is prime with a discount. So I'm at prime -1 personally. So as prime drops, my payment drops. And I'm still paying my mortgage for it. I'm not losing any money. It just drops with it. And as you do that, when it finally bottoms out, right, you can also typically flip your adjustable rate into the best, into the next closest rate possible, which should either be lower than where you're at, or you're going to be lower than where the fixed is at, and you're just going to keep going. So you get the advantage of buying now, not overpaying, and then riding the rate game, riding the train all the way down. Someone who goes fixed, it's not the wrong answer. Just you have to put the blinders on, because if you get angry that your buddy who bought 6 months later has a rate that's 20 or 25 basis points lower than you, there's nothing you can do without paying a penalty to get out of it. So that's the way you want to play that game.
I'm assuming that, like what we were talking about earlier, the banks that are quote unquote bleeding money at charging 4.2% on a 5-year fix, they're looking at this and they're mathing out and they're saying, hey, look, yeah, we might be bleeding money now, but we're going to look like champions in 2 years from now, where everyone else is getting rates at whatever it is, 3% or 2.5%, and we've got these suckers locked in at 4.2. And there's some people right now who locked in at 6% for 5 years.
Right? Oh, I did. There's deals I did 6-7 months ago that I have to go back and relook at for people and say, like, hey, it might make sense to actually break this. Like, it's only still a 3-month interest penalty, which sucks, but we're going to save you this much more money because that's where the rates went. Like, this is what happened. I don't know. That's what happened.
And that's the thing that blows my mind. Like, if you want to talk about the perfect storm and the great opportunity, even if you're the type of person who doesn't want a variable or what do you call it, a flexible rate, even if you're the type of person that said, hey, look, I want fixed is the way to go, I don't want to think about it, I want my monthly payments to be the same, the end, you're talking about such a significant difference from 6 months ago until now, and the house prices are less expensive. I just did the market update. We hit a high point in terms of average price in the springtime, and we haven't hit that rebound price. So we've been coming down and down and down since the springtime. So there's a really good opportunity for you, if you're buying, to buy now, take advantage of the lower rates, take advantage of the lower prices. People are always saying, oh, I want to wait for the lower rates. Oh, I want to wait for the lower prices. Stop waiting. Like, the time is now, and the longer you wait, the worse it's going to get. That's my hot take. I'm not getting angry about it, but I'm just saying, like, if you're buying, like, smart buyers are buying now, right, and taking advantage of both. So that's it.
But what do you say to someone? What do you say to someone who's like, well, Sean, you and Kyle said that 6 months ago, and now the rates have come down, and so have prices apparently. Haha, we're smarter than you. Like, what do you say? What do you say to that point?
What do you say to somebody you hate or anybody trying to bring trouble your way? Study a tape.
I don't know the next line, but I know.
Study a tape at NWA. One day I was walking by with a Walkman on. I'm like, "Caught a guy, give me an awkward eye." Anyways, here's the thing.
To the king.
Nobody has a crystal ball, right? At the time, it seemed like the best opportunity, and right now, it seems like an even better opportunity. I would say that in the long term, most people aren't trying to time the market. They're thinking, oh, hey, if I need to buy a house, I'm going to buy a house. If I need to sell a house, I'm going to sell a house. People aren't waiting to time it perfectly. At the time, it looked like, hey, this is a good opportunity right now. It also looked like a good opportunity 6 months ago. It also looked like a good opportunity 6 years ago. It also looked like a good opportunity at the peak of COVID to buy a house, right? Every time looks like a good opportunity. Right now, we're comparing it to the recent past, and it seems better. At the time in the recent past, it also seemed better, which is why that's what we were saying. I guess that's my talking out of both sides of my mouth, politician answer. Speaking of
But
politics,
there never is like that's the thing. People are like, oh, it's a bad time to buy. Is it? Like I'm stuck on the fact that it's like you have to live somewhere and you're
yeah,
paying somebody something. Unless you're in your mom's basement, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're in your mom's basement, right, and you're just banking money, then sure, go. You just wait until. But at the end of the day, if you're ready, you're ready. If you can afford it, you can afford it. Go.
yeah, yeah. My thought is, the best time. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Yesterday,
When's the next
10
best
years
time?
ago, yeah.
Right now, right? Like this is you're not going to find a better chance to do it than right now. And if you don't do it now, you're going to look back and you're gonna kick yourself. So, um, shifting gears just a little bit, talking about. I mean, we're talking around the market. So, I was going to talk about politics. I'll probably leave that alone. But there's a chance that something happens, and when we get into an election year, it has the effect of sort of putting the brakes on everything. So we'll see what happens as we move towards November. A lot of the like I do a monthly throw up about stats and stuff like that and what's going on in the real estate market. If you're not subscribed to the channel, subscribe to the channel. You can watch back all of those stats every single month going back. And the the pitch, like the Ottawa Real Estate Board puts out things, says, "Oh well, we had a strong summer," and I'm like, "No, we didn't. It didn't feel like a strong summer." But they're comparing it to last year, and compared to last year, yes, it looked like a strong summer. Last year's summer was abysmal, right? There were not a lot of sales. This year, our sales numbers are up by 10%, but versus the 5 or 10 year rolling average, they're down, right? And if the number of sales are down versus the 5 or 10 year rolling average, and there's more people living here, there's like we're still going to run into the same problem where yeah, okay, it feels like there's more supply, but it feels like there's more supply compared to COVID numbers, not compared to pre-COVID numbers. And a lot of agents haven't been in business for too long to understand the effect of the like what we're in right now. If you're only comparing it to the last 5 years, it doesn't really it doesn't have the same weight. Whereas you compare it to a longer sample size, it's like, no, we're still in a bad spot. The only market that right now we've converted from a from a seller's market to a balanced market is the condo apartment world. Everything else, the detached houses and the townhouses, that sort of thing, semis, those are all in a seller's market, a slight seller's market, but still a seller's market, even given the amount of inventory that we have. Now, what that means is that there's 4 months or more worth of inventory. So if nothing else came onto the market at the rate that we're selling, it will take us 4 months to sell everything that we have. That is still a seller's market.
I needed that. I saw someone else post something like that, and they talked about 2.5 months, 4 months of inventory. I'm like, I have no idea what that means. I'm in this industry, and I'm like, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
So
there you go. So it's based on the rate of sale right now. So if we sell, let's say we sell 1,000 houses a month, and we've got 4,000 pieces of inventory, we've got 4 months worth of inventory.
and that means that it's a seller's market.
So anything up to 4 months is a seller's market. 4 to 6 is balanced, and 6+ is a buyer's market.
Wow. Okay, cool. That's actually the first time I've ever had that explained. So
There you go.
Beauty.
Stick around
Record
to the second
that,
half.
snip it,
Yeah.
send it out. Perfect.
Yeah. So that's it. The last piece I wanted to touch on is there's been a bit of a chatter on the boards that on the communication boards that the Ottawa Real Estate Board might be thinking about amalgamating or merging with Cornwall Board, St. Lawrence Board, what else? The Kingston Board. So maybe potentially creating like an Eastern Ontario board, which would give us a lot of power, not the size of TREB, which is the largest real estate board in the country probably, and encompasses all of Toronto and surrounding areas. Where I think it's moving long term, and where I would love it to move long term, is an Ontario based board where everyone can get on and see what's for sale, what has sold, what the prices were, all that sort of stuff, all the way across everywhere. I think that'd be great. But in the interim, our little, real estate boards, our little 4 or 5 boards here are getting together and talking about how they can link up and merge together. So that's interesting. I'll be interested to see how that plays out and what it looks like. There's also a new technology that's
Sorry, one sec.
Yeah, go.
Advantageous or disadvantageous to amalgamate?
I think it's advantageous. I think more is better. I think you're still gonna have like subcategories. So like you don't want an agent to sell out of their comfort zone. I don't want to go to Renfrew and sell a house in Renfrew. I'll do it, but I'm not the Renfrew pro expert, right? I don't want to go to somewhere else and do something else like that. I'm cool in Ottawa. Ottawa's my spot. I know all that sort of stuff, but I don't want to pretend that I can go down to Kingston and sell a house and know the agents, know the players, know the houses. I wouldn't do it in Toronto, right? I've gone to Cornwall on a one-off. I've gone to Renfrew on a one-off, but I wouldn't want to do it on a regular basis. But I think seeing what other places that are selling for, especially as to start to get into some of these rural or country properties, like I'm going to do a video for a house next Wednesday, and it's in a place called Addison Greenbush, which is, right. It's like 15 minutes north of Brockville, right? And it's someone who's like, hey, I want you to sell my house. Please, I want you. I don't want someone else. This person is actually a real estate agent, and they don't want to sell it themselves because they realize the importance of hiring a professional. So there's a pretty good sales pitch. Pat myself on the back. Hey, even other realtors will hire us to sell their houses. So it's I guess my point is, I think it's advantageous the more information becomes freely available to us as agents across Ontario.
So the point here is that you don't have access to the other board's information. So if you when you cross the line, you're going in there thinking like, oh, hope this works.
Here's the thing. There is no line to cross. As a realtor who works in the Ottawa board, I'm not confined by, oh, well, this is outside of the city limits of Ottawa. I can't sell a house. So the people on the Cornwall board can sell houses further and further north into places that Ottawa board agents would also be selling. So there's no line, right? There's this overlap thing, and we don't have access to what they are doing on their end. They don't have access to what we're doing on our end. And whenever you get into these more rural places, you might have it listed by a house next door to another house listed by 2 agents from 2 different boards, and they don't get to see each other's stuff. I'm going to do an outro here, and we'll see what sticks. So as always, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with someone who might like this type of conversation. Hopefully we're able to stitch this together. I don't know what happened.
What happened there? Happened twice.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So you can always download us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Technical glitches of Zoom. Thank heavens for technology and stitching this stuff together. I'll press a button. We'll see that hopefully some of this is recorded, not just this outro. Gets Kyle's breath of anxiety.
This is like, all right.
Yeah, you know how to find us. You can do all the things, and we'll catch you on the flip side. Until next time, keep it real.
Collective.